Ready? Would you like me to start? Should we wait until exactly 4:30? Or is it exactly 4:30? Why don't we go ahead and get started? My name is Karen Leeker, and I teach in the Certificate of Entrepreneurship and Innovation group. I've taught for, how many people know about the Certificate of Entrepreneurship? Okay. So it's a certificate program. You have to take 5 classes, and you can get an additional certificate when you graduate. Anybody in the program? Nope? Okay. If you're interested in that, I can talk to you later. So I teach in that class, and we're here to talk about engineering and entrepreneurship and product development. Is that what you all thought you're coming for? Okay. You think so? Okay. So why am I teaching this? I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and then you have to do the return. You have to tell me all about you and why you're here. Okay? So I am an engineer. I graduated from Purdue way, way, way before you were born. And I like to see the women in the class, because there were only 3 in my class. And I don't think it's much different now, is it? So I'm an entrepreneur, but I've served on the C-suite and vice president roles, senior vice president roles, leading innovation. And so my whole career I've spent in R&D, product development, and innovation. So I have those core competencies, and I know the difference between innovation, product development, marketing, and I've even done licensing and negotiation, which is what happens when entrepreneurs get their businesses to a certain point and then they want to sell them to somebody. So I've even done that kind of work. So that's why I'm here. So I want to know about who's in the room, whom I'm talking to, so I can figure out how to craft this message. So how many are you studying engineers? 100%, really? Yay, women. I'm so proud to see you. What kind of engineers? How many chemical? None. How many mechanical? Mechanical? How about aerospace? Industrial. That's what I am, industrial. What other kind of, computer? All right, what am I missing? Biomedical. Civil. Okay. Anybody else? Did I cover them all? No AB engineering, or what's that? Agriculture and biological engineering? No? What kind are you studying? Oh, civil? Okay. How many freshmen? Whoa. You guys are, the first 2 years are killers, right? They're killers. How many sophomore? All right, juniors? Seniors? Okay, so you're all in the EPICS program, right? What projects are you working on? Are you all working on the same project, or you all have different ones? Okay, tell me, I think they kind of repeat projects every semester. Tell me what project you're working on.
We're both on Habitat for Humanity. We're building a bike lift that lifts bikes from the first floor to the second floor of the Habitat storage building.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Tell me another project.
Us 3 work on Pause, and we basically just work with the animal shelter nearby and help them with like organization and anything to make the shelter more efficient.
Ah, okay. Oh, like animal paw.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, okay, I got it. I got it. How about you guys? What are you working on?
I'm part of neighborhood sustainability, along with Nancy right there,
Okay.
and then with Daniel and Jeff as well over there. Our group, National and building a playground, an interactive educational playground,
Oh, wow.
and then those 3 over there are building like an advanced manufacturing station within like a special.
Within the, like a little place they can go play?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's an installation that teaches kids about advanced manufacturing, but it's interactive.
And when you say advanced manufacturing, are you talking purely 3D printing, or are you talking about?
We're all of the
Wow, where will that be? Where's the playground?
It's like a community center
Yeah.
just outside of, across the bridge.
In the Hartford Hub.
Oh, wow, cool. What other projects? What are you guys doing over here?
I'm creating an educational display for G90 engine family.
An education display for,
G90 family, which is on the Boeing 777.
okay, and who is the education geared towards?
Um, it's more of a display which people can walk by and stop. It will be in this building.
In this building, okay. How about the rest of you at that table?
I'm creating an app for the Indiana School for the Deaf. It's basically to help these students who live in these dorms. They live away from their parents, but this app, it basically helps them summarize what they're doing throughout the day, helps them communicate with their parents.
Oh, wow, yeah, because that would be hard to text everything you're doing. Yeah, yeah.
Well, like especially like a lot of the students being deaf, English isn't necessarily their first language
Oh,
as well.
right.
It's mostly sign language, so we're trying to make it more intuitive for those kinds of students.
How cool. So do you have to learn sign language?
Not as of now, but probably in some future plans.
That's really interesting. What about the rest of you?
We're both part of the neighborhood sustainability team as well.
Oh, okay.
I'm on Lakota, so we're designing foundations for like low-income housing in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, which is the lowest income county in the United States. About $10,000 per like a critical year, $10,000.
So is it a reservation?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go Lakota
So-
Sioux.
right? And you're foundations. What do you mean? Home foundations?
Yeah, like concrete or Airbnb. So they already have the houses built. They are like the technical college builds the houses, but they haven't built any foundations yet. So we're doing that for them.
Is that, what do you study? Civil
It's,
engine? No.
I'm just first year engineering.
Oh, you don't know yet, right? Yeah. What are you guys doing? What's your project?
I'm on pause.
Oh, you're on pause too? You too? No? What are you doing?
I'm part of DKC, similar to his project, like under the same organization, but we have a different project. We basically work with a girl from Central Indiana. She's a swimmer.
Uh-huh.
We have to create a remote sensor device that lets her communicate with her coach while she swims, and her coach basically, like, the goal of the project is to be able to create a remote that when she taps, it can tell her the pace at which she wants her to swim with her teammates.
Oh, wow. Speed up. You're losing. Jolts of electricity to
No, it's like basically like
behind your
you put
ear?
the Arduino and the chip in the back of her head, and it transmits it to a sensor in her eye so she can see it.
So what is that, in her goggles or
Yeah.
something? Okay, because you're not putting it in her head.
It's like under attack.
There are some people working on that kind of stuff, but not yet. I don't think they, how about you? Say,
I'm on Wolf team, so basically work with
Wolf?
Park in Battleground, Indiana.
Oh, right.
So I'm working to help redesign a box enclosure for the park.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. How about you back there?
Anna and I are both on Speedway, so we're working with the Indy Motor Speedway Museum to make like an exhibit so that kids can learn more about like the crews in the automotive industry, like different parts about
Wow.
racing and stuff like that.
That's really fun. Do you get to go down there a lot? Yeah. It's even more fun, right?
I'm on the natural disaster preparedness team, and my project is a low-budget water filter for a community in Colombia.
I used to work for Procter & Gamble, and we had a pure water filter business, and we have these little sachets that they donate all over the world that clean small amounts of water. And that's a big, huge need. How about you?
I'm working on like a pill dispenser connected to a wearable device that like tracks how often patients are taking pills and like reminds them at certain times of the day.
Yeah, I worked on a startup for a pill reminder, and is that a company sponsored, or is that just a project here?
It's just a project, yeah.
Okay. How about you guys? Yeah.
I'm actually on the HPH team as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm on the zoo team, so basically we work, our project partners, the Colombian Park Zoo, or the particular project I'm working on, I'm part of, is a donation box in the shape of, you know, a butterfly, and when you insert money, coins or dollar bills, it'll state, you know, a random conservation fact about butterflies.
Oh, that's cool. Anybody else have a project we haven't talked about?
I'm in EBEI, so our whole team works on this go-karting thing, a go-kart for like a go-karting competition, and I'm in data acquisition, so I work with code and I try to get the how fast they're moving the steering wheel, just information about the go-kart as it's going directly into the computer, so that while it's happening, you get the data on.
Real-time data, what they're doing, how much fuel they're consuming, how their tires are wearing, all that kind of stuff. That's cool. So when I was here, they didn't have these kind of projects. So I'm assuming, at least that's the goal of EPICS, that not everybody on your team is an engineer, right? And that's kind of what's going to happen when you graduate. There are so few engineers in the world, you're not going to ever, it'll be very seldom that you'll get in a room with this many engineers ever again after you leave Purdue, because they just, you know, there's a shortage. So you might be the only engineer. You might be a computer engineer or a mechanical engineer. So, but you're never going to be in the situation where you're working on a team of 5 mechanical engineers all doing the same project. So EPICS is really a good program that's preparing you to work with people who think differently, who are educated differently. And what you're going to find as you go through the engineering program at Purdue, it's going to train you to think in a different way than most people think. And you'll have unique skills that others won't have that will allow you to do things that other people trained in other disciplines won't be able to do. So innovation. I'm sure you've heard that word, right? What do you think innovation is? Tell me. Any ideas? When you hear that, what do you think?
Thinking of new things.
New things. New things. Well, it's a process. Innovation really is a process of assembling a lot of things. You're assembling resources. You might have patents, intellectual property. You might have to build a new process to collect that data, a new sensor to do whatever it is. You're doing all of that now with this girl. So you're building sensors, so you're building the physical hardware, the firmware, and then the process of how you're going to collect that data. Well, once you collect that data, what do you do with that data? All of those things are innovation. So you need to be creative, and you have to have theories, and you have to be able to think about multiple ways to do the same thing. Now, entrepreneurship is really not just the product part of it. It's now I have to build a business, okay? And the business needs people to sell it, okay? So now you have to have salespeople, and you have to have marketing people who can help you tell people what it is you're doing so that they become aware of it and they know where they can go buy it or buy it from you. You have to have finance people. You have to have lawyers. You have to have all these people together to build a business so that it can become successful. Because sometimes entrepreneurs think, oh, I got this great idea. I got this product. A product is not a business, okay? And so entrepreneurship is the part of building the business part, okay? Okay. So I'm sure in these projects, you think, oh, I'm just building this little donation thing that's going to come up with a random butterfly thing, right? That should be easy. I'm going to go from here to there. But that doesn't really happen because you try something and you're like, oh, that didn't really work the way I wanted it to work. All the other parts of the business do the same thing. They might have a marketing message that they think, oh, this is what we're going to tell people, and they're going to come buy our product. And they put it out there and nobody understands it. They don't get any sales. So they have to go back and do it all over again, right? So entrepreneurship is really about innovation, and you just being in the discipline of engineering will be working on innovation when you get out of school. Whether you want to, unless you decide not to work as an engineer. And it's really a gas. You'll have so much fun doing it. So why engineers have an advantage in entrepreneurship? Why do you think that? Why do you think engineers would have an advantage? Why?
The mindset that you develop through an engineering degree.
Yep. Right? What else? What else do you think gives you an advantage? Yep.
Their problem solving.
Very good. Yep. Why else? The design process, right? Very disciplined approach. Why else do you think? I'm going to give you something else. Because you know what is possible. Okay? Think about that. You know it's possible to collect data from tires and from fuel tanks and all that kind of stuff. You know it's possible to be able to get that swimmer to run faster. You know it's possible to build low-cost foundations, right? Why hasn't anybody done that yet? Most of the world doesn't understand what's possible. And that's what you can bring to the party. A new way of thinking about it, a new way of doing it, a new method. So you know what's possible out there. I'm sure, I don't know, maybe you haven't. If you've taken an entrepreneurship class, you've talked about the voice of the customer. You all have customers in your EPICS project, don't you? Right? Do you get to talk to them? Right? When you learn to talk to them in a way where you can understand what they're experiencing, and then you can translate that into the technical things you have to do to change it and improve their experience. It's very, very difficult for non-technically trained people to do that. When you get out in the business world, they'll have a bunch of marketing people saying, oh, I talked to all these consumers and they want the product to do this. And it's like, well, did you ask this question? They're like, no. And they don't know, well, it can do that, but I can also take it here. Wouldn't they want that? And so the possibilities that you can achieve by listening to what you know and listening to the customer is going to give you a huge advantage over other folks out in the field. Problem solving, right? I've developed so many products. I worked most of my career for Procter & Gamble. I was there for 27 years. Procter & Gamble makes Pampers, Luvs, Tide. It's a huge consumer products company. And I built over $1 billion worth of businesses. So I've developed products for my whole life. It's just part of my DNA. I also have 4 patents, okay? So technically have patents. And one of the things that was important at Procter & Gamble was to have a superior product. Our products always had to be better than any. Crest toothpaste had to be better than every other toothpaste. Charmin toilet paper had to be better than any other toilet paper. So we always had to build superior products. And so that's why they had tons of engineers developing the products, because we needed to learn how to test the products technically to see where those differences might be. You know, how do you measure softness in toilet paper? If I can measure it, then I can improve it, and I know I've improved it because now the measurement tool told me I've improved it, right? Measurement stuff, you're doing that all the time. How do I know technically that it's softer, it holds more fluid, it can withstand the weight of the house. You're all learning how to do technical test design and measurement. If you can figure out how to test something that your competition can't, you can make a better product than they can, right? So it was, so this is a quote from St. Francis of Assisi. Start by doing what's necessary, right? I'm going to do this because I know this will work, and then start doing what's possible, and suddenly you're doing something impossible. That's how, Elon Musk and Tesla, right? He's doing things people said weren't possible, right? It's taken him a long time, but he, in his heart, knew those were possible, and that was where he was going, and he's taking it in the direction. But he's doing it step by step. It's not like you're going to leap to that. But having that vision and having that ability to learn what's possible. So as I said, with my career at P&G, they had a competitive advantage because P&G's philosophy was, I can take technically trained people like you in the room, and I can teach you how to talk to customers. And that's much easier than me taking non-technical people, like marketing people, who already know how to talk customers, and teach them to be technical. Can't do that, right? And so learning that skill of being able to talk to the customers, that's why I really encourage you to really talk to these people that you're working on these projects with, the users of the bike lift. Ask them a million questions. No question is too stupid. You're not bothering people when you're asking them questions. Well, why did you do that? Why isn't that? Well, it's not working. If you just say, okay, and go back and try to fix it, you're going to be, well, what isn't working? What don't you like about it? Well, it's not holding enough weight. How much weight do you want it to hold? It's not going fast enough. How fast do you want it to go? You always keep following these questions so you can get really deep into understanding what they really, really need, and boom, you'll make the best product or service or system than you've ever made in your life. Because when they tell you that, I mean, I'm working at a startup right now, and people discount. It's like, oh, well, they said this, and we can't do that. And it's like, yeah, we can. We can do it this way, not the way you would traditionally think about it, right? And that's why you're going to be so valuable. And you can take those needs, and so when they say it's not fast enough, and you say, well, how fast do you want it to go? They might say, I want it to go 10 feet a second, or they might say, I want it up here in 5 seconds. Well, you're going to have to translate that into what does that mean in terms of the motor you need, and the acceleration, and all the kind of technical requirements that would help you get it up there. So it's much better. So any software people in here? Software coders, they just love to code. Yeah? So this is just a funny thing. I forgot to tell you that the specification has changed. In the world you're living in, you've all heard of Moore's Law, haven't you? Heard of Moore's Law? What's Moore's Law? Tell them what Moore's Law is. 18 months, right? That the computing power of our chips are going to change every 18 months. So innovation is just moving so fast. I mean, what you're learning today is going to be obsolete by the time you get out of college. So you just have to keep learning. But being able to do this. Problem solvers. If you can learn this process of solving a problem, it won't matter if you're a mechanical engineer and you've never really done sensors. You can jump in and use the technical skills and training that you've done to learn sensors, because you know the basic foundation. Now you just have to know a little bit of a new technology. So it's much easier for you to jump in and do that. I'm sure you've all heard of the problem solving, right? Do you practice that? Sometimes I get accused of, when I'm working at the startup, and they're like, God, all you do is bring up problems. And it's like, Well, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm identifying the problem so that we can fix it before it goes out to the customer and is a problem, right? The earlier you can find the problem and identify it, the more valuable you're going to be to a company. Invest millions of dollars in developing products, put it out there, and what was that? I always say this, the Samsung battery issue. Remember when the batteries were exploding? Do you think no one in Samsung knew that? That they would explode? Do you really think that they didn't know that would happen? You as an engineer might have been the bench engineer, the person testing it, said, hey, wait a minute, you got a problem here. Right? Samsung took a calculated risk. Everybody does. They know problems exist. They'll say, well, what percentage of the batteries do you think is going to explode? Do we think it's going to be a big issue? Let's launch anyway, right? I know, because when I was in the, I had 13 plants that reported to me for quality, and the people that were in the production, they're like, oh, let's just ship it. And it's like, no, we're not going to ship it because then it's going to come back. And so we spent all the money to ship it, then we're going to spend all the money to fix it, and then we're going to have to send it back again, and our reputation gets destroyed in that process. How many people still have a Samsung phone? Oh, I do. Right? So identifying problems before they become huge. It's a huge problem for them to fix. Millions and millions of dollars they had to put at that. To identify the problem earlier would never have gotten to that point. So you want to build a product that exceeds customers' needs. And I think we kind of talked enough about that. Anybody know anything about product development? A lot of you are doing it in your projects. So in most companies that you're going to go to work for, there's a product development organization. So what is product development? There's a term that they call, they've coined this term in the last several years, called an entrepreneur. And so these are people within large companies, people with GE, people with Rolls-Royce, people with companies, and they're kind of doing a role of an entrepreneur, looking for something new and different that's not making incremental little changes to the products that exist. And so they use an innovation process where they kind of go out and they look at all different kinds of ideas and they sort through them based on their strategies. Would this fit with our strategy and such? And then they narrow them down until they execute.
I need to interrupt.
Yep.
Is there a laptop left up there? Right there at your feet.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yep. Need that. So there's a process companies use. How do they know what new products they're going to do? How do they know what new cars they're going to do? How many services? They're narrowing down. They're starting with a lot, then they narrow them down, and then they execute. 80% of companies in the United States use a stage gate process to manage that product development process. Chances are you're going to be exposed to this when you leave if you work for a company in the US. And what it is they have stages. Let's sort through ideas, and then they'll have criteria. We're looking for ideas that will add $10 million of revenue and cost, have a margin of 20%, meet this niche in the market that we are not able to get at. So they'll have criteria at each stage, and they'll have a gate. And you say, okay, this is the work we did, this is what we found, it matches the criteria. Yes or no? If it's a yes, then you get additional funding to go to the next stage, which is where then you bring more people in. You might bring a finance person, a marketing person in. And as you go through each stage in the process, then you'll have manufacturing people and quality people and warehouse people and all kinds of logistics people. So the team gets larger and larger the further you go along the stage. And that's the way companies manage